How do our personal memories shape the aromas we recognize in wine? What incredible Argentine wines are we missing if we only focus on Malbec? And why do food and wines from the same region often pair beautifully even when they break the usual rules? In today's episode, you'll hear the stories and tips that answer those questions in part 2 of our chat with Marisol de la Fuente. If you missed part 1 from last week, go back and have a listen after you finish this one. By the end of our conversation, you'll also discover how a student's memory of his grandmother helped Marisol explain aroma in wine tasting, how molecular pairing can create surprising matches like white chocolate with caviar, why Marisol says wine changes with age rather than automatically improving, the biggest misconception people have about aging wine, what Argentina needs to do better to show the world its full range of wines, how Marisol believes wine communication should never feel too solemn, the childhood comfort food Marisol would pair with white wine today, and why Marisol believes constant study and research matter most in wine communication. Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. What's new in the drinks world? This week in Fur, Feathers, and Fermentation, I'm nominating the Central American fruit bat as the world's most dependable designated driver. While human drivers lose all coordination when drunk, Central American fruit bats are the ultimate designated drivers of the mammal world, despite a diet rich in fermenting tropical fruits like mangoes and wild figs. In laboratory testing, researchers fed these bats alcohol until their blood alcohol content reached a staggering 0.3%, nearly 4 times the legal driving limit for humans. Remarkably, when challenged to fly through a complex obstacle course of hanging chains, the intoxicated bats navigated flawlessly, never crashed, and recorded echolocation calls that were completely indistinguishable from their sober counterparts. For some weird reason, this calls to mind my favorite phrase from the old Batman series, "Leapin' leopards, Batman, this situation is changing its spots." Anyway, in synthetic news, McNamara Distillery in Sweden is now blending single malt whiskey entirely via an artificial intelligence algorithm developed in partnership with Microsoft to analyze sales metrics and customer preferences for machine-generated flavor profile. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I do understand the need for profits and to be responsive to consumers, but I wonder if we're losing something there. And a small craft brewery in Oregon mixed up their hop delivery with a shipment of edible glitter meant for a local bakery, resulted in a sparkling IPA that shimmers like a disco ball when poured. The mistake proved so popular that customers are now petitioning the brewery to make the glitter beer a permanent menu item, much to the exhaustion of the brewmaster, who has to clean out the sparkly vats and the little sparkles that get caught in his beard. And for your weird but wonderful scientific fact of the week, champagne bubbles often start from tiny cellulose fibers stuck to the inside of the glass. So part of the magic is terroir, and part of it is lint with ambition. Drink science remains humbling, mostly because the glassware knows more than we do. And for your calendar this week, August 12th is National Gooey Butter Cake Day. This St. Louis specialty may have started as a 1930s bakery mistake when the proportions of butter and flour reportedly got swapped, but customers ate the evidence and have loved it ever since. It's also National Julienne Fries Day. Julienne is a French knife technique for cutting food into long, thin matchsticks, also known as shoestring fries. The oldest written reference to the cut appears in the 1722 edition of François Massalot's cookbook, Le Cuisinier Royal et Bourgeois. And it's afternoon tea week. It's a week-long observance, so you can stretch the fun past one cup. August 13th is National Prosecco Day. Prosecco is named after the village of Prosecco near Trieste in northeastern Italy, which is part of why the name feels so tied to place. True Prosecco comes from the Veneto and Friuli Venezia Giulia regions and is based on the Glera grape, although up to 15% of certain other permitted varieties can join the party. It earned official DOC designation in 2009. Unlike champagne, which ferments in individual bottles, Prosecco ferments in large stainless steel tanks using the Charmat method, which keeps it fresh and affordable. Since August 13th is also International Left-Handers Day, try a southpaw pour and open and pour using only your left hand. That's good for your brain, too. Try brushing your teeth that way, though never before a glass of wine. And finally, August 13th is also National Filet Mignon Day. Filet mignon comes from the smaller end of the beef tenderloin. Its French name means cute or dainty fillet, which is an unexpectedly delicate name for an expensive piece of cow. August 14th is National Creamsicle Day. The creamsicle grew from the epsicle invented by accident in 1905 by 11-year-old Frank Epperson. He left a glass of soda water powder with a stirring stick out on his porch overnight during a freeze. Decades later, vanilla ice cream was added to the core, giving us the orange wrapped around vanilla treat we know today. August 15th is National Lemon Meringue Day. Lemon custards have ancient roots, and meringue itself was perfected in the 17th century. The modern lemon meringue pie arrived in the 19th century, perfected by Elizabeth Goodfellow, a Philadelphia pastry shop owner. She ran America's first cooking school and invented the fluffy meringue topping to use the leftover egg whites from her lemon curd. August 16th is National Rum Day. Rum developed in the Caribbean sugar trade during the 1600s when people discovered that molasses could be fermented and distilled. It's woven through naval history, too. From 1655 until 1970, British Royal Navy sailors received a daily rum ration known as a tot. To curb drunkenness on deck, Vice Admiral Edward Vernon ordered the rum cut with water and lime juice, which accidentally created grog, an early ancestor of the modern daiquiri. It's also National Bratwurst Day. Nuremberg has written documentation of bratwurst dating to 1313, while Thuringia in south-central Germany has its own claim based on a 1404 document. The sausage has been causing paperwork for centuries. August 17th is National Pineapple Juice Day. This is one of the newer food holidays. Dole Packaged Foods and National Day Calendar created it in 2023 after a public petition campaign. The people wanted their National Pineapple Juice Day, and they could not be ignored. It's also National Vanilla Custard Day. Custard dates back to ancient Rome, where cooks discovered that eggs could bind liquids together. Those early Roman versions were savory affairs, built on eel, black pepper, and ground meat, rather than vanilla and sugar. By the Middle Ages, it had become a pie and tart filling, and the word comes from the French term for the crust of the tart, so the filling was named after its container. August 18th is National Fajita Day. Fajitas grew from the cooking of Mexican vaqueros in southwest Texas in the early 20th century, using skirt steak and other less prized beef cuts over open fires to make one of my most delicious takeout dishes. It's also National Ice Cream Pie Day. Nobody has managed to establish who created this holiday, so the pie has apparently frozen the paper trail. And finally, it's also National Pinot Noir Day. Pinot Noir is known among winemakers as the heartbreak grape. Its thin skins make it fragile and touchy, open to frost, rot, and vineyard disease, and you looking at them the wrong way. It's also one of the world's oldest cultivated grapes, dating back over 2,000 years to Roman times. And it's so genetically changeable that Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc arose as color mutations of it. So one ancient grape became its own wine family. Back to today's episode. If you'd like to win one of 6 drinks books I have to give away, please email me and let me know you'd like to win. It doesn't matter where you live. I'll choose 6 winners randomly from those who contact me at natalie@nataliemclain.com. And if you're reading the paperback or ebook or listening to the audiobook of my memoir, Wine Witch on Fire, Rising from the Ashes of Divorce, Defamation, and Drinking Too Much, a national bestseller and one of Amazon's best books of the year, I'd love to hear from you at natalie@nataliemclain.com. There's also a terrific free guide for book clubs. I'll put a link in the show notes to all retailers worldwide at nataliemclain.com/402. Okay, on with the show. Now, when you teach wine tasting courses, I love this comment from a student. He said, the wine smells like my grandmother. So what was he getting at? How did you decode that?
When I teach, we usually teach about the smell memory and how we discover the smells on wine. And I always say that you discover what you know. And I have a lot of stories similar to that one, where somebody told me it smells like my grandmother. And I try to think about that specific situation. And I remember in that case, for example, I asked, okay, your grandmother used some kind of perfume, flower perfume, because connecting that with the wines that we were tasting. And he said, yeah, well, yes, it's true, maybe lavender. What he recalled about this specific situation, the smell, it was about the perfumes. But in his mind was like, that was the smell of my grandmother. So I just tried to decode that and explain to him, look, your memories, your mind is thinking about that specific situation because you didn't have focus on the smell itself. But if you're feeling that, it's because you smell something and the smell is in your mind. So the important part is the smell is in your mind. We need to identify what the smell we are talking about. And I remember that in that case was because the perfume and the flower aromas in the perfume. But I had a lot of anecdotes about things like that because...
Yeah. And you said another student said this wine smelled like sushi. So what were they getting at?
That was amazing because it was a very old wine, 15 years old. And of course, we know that there are some smells that are connected with the age for the aging. And we have some balsamics aromas there, maybe. So I remember I asked this person, okay, you use a lot of soy sauce on your sushi? Ah, yes, I love it. I put the sushi in a bowl full of soy sauce. And of course, was the balsamic part, the smell that this person connect with the sushi. So in the wine,
that's incredible.
We had some balsamic notes, his or her mind, I don't remember. It was like, okay, this smells is something that I know, but I can't describe what. So I feel that when I am eating sushi. It's very interesting how our minds work.
Oh, yeah, the connection between memory and aroma is so powerful. Yeah. Exactly. Now let's go back to Torrontés. You paired it with empanadas. And you said it should not work because meat should ask for a more powerful wine, and yet it worked perfectly. Why did it work?
Because it's what we usually call regional pairing. If the two products are from the same place with elements that are from that place, in general work together. We have some rules about wine pairing, but sometimes when we are talking about regional pairings, that rules is okay. This is not like in the rule, but it's working perfectly well. And that is the case of Torrontés meat empanadas, because that is something very typical in the north of Argentina, where the Torrontés is the main grape variety.
Okay, they say in English, what grows together goes together.
Exactly. That is the idea.
Yeah. And you even describe molecular pairing, where food are matched because they share aromatic molecules. And you mentioned white chocolate with caviar and strawberries with coriander as examples. Tell me more about that. What was going on with the pairings with all of those very different aromas?
In that case, it's more about the connection between not only aromas, also flavors. You know that we have the complementary pairing, the regional pairing, the contrast pairing. And in some new books and trainings, you are going to find this molecular pairing that is not the idea, because if you, in your mind, white chocolate and caviar is not something that is going to be very well. Chocolate and caviar is not a good fit. But these two elements share some components and aromas and flavors. And this is the reason why some chefs that are still doing molecular food and plates, they combine that flavors and aromas to combine different products. And it's innovation and it's like new possibilities to do some pairings. It's something that is not very common, but it's something that happens. So this is the reason why I describe it on the book like one option. The most common options are contrast or complementary between wine and food, or also regional pairings.
Sure. Now, you have a fascinating story about a woman who was such a passionate wine collector, she could no longer fit her shoes in her closet. She had so many bottles. She couldn't clean under her bed. And eventually she had to move her car out of her garage because she was keeping all her more bottles in there. So when you finally saw her collection, what was the first thing you suggested to her other than get therapy, woman?
Yeah.
Like, well, that was she just I guess she was just passionate. She was it doesn't sound like she was a hoarder of other things.
No,
but
no.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, she's a friend of mine, and she asked me for help because she was studying to be sommelier, and she started to buy many things, go to events and receive products. And at some moment they have all those boxes everywhere on her house.
Yes.
What I did for her was to do a classification. This is not to age. This is not something that makes sense to have here. This is for drinking now. This is for a present. And we did some kind of organization. And of course, I suggest her to have a wine fridge specifically for wines. And we did this selection, and I did a lot of cleanup, because when you start, and that was the case, you buy and you have many different things, and you don't have a clear understanding of what is worthy to have there and to wait, and what is not, and you have a mix, and in some cases some wines already was very over on their lives because we were very old, and the wine was a young wine. So basically, I did cleaning with her. I did some classification. I suggest her, if you want to have wines, okay, we cannot keep having your storage under your bed, because if you want to have this wine for 5 years, 10 years, whatever, or even 1 year, you need to have it in the correct place. But yeah, and it happened a lot. Also, me at the beginning, I have a lot of boxes and things everywhere at home. So at some moment, of course, I had my own cavas here, my own wine fridge here. I have a room with the cooler and everything. But at the beginning, I was also a mess. But fortunately, I organized that. And during these years, I had help a lot of people to organize their own mess, because sometimes when you are very passionate and you are in the beginnings, you buy everything.
That's true. You should have a makeover show, a cellar makeover show, and hopefully your friend got her shoes back into her closet. But you make a really interesting point too about the way wine ages or not. You draw a distinction between wine changing with age and a wine improving. And you write, wine mutates, it doesn't improve. So explain a little bit about that, because we have this, a lot of people have a false misconception that, oh, I should just wait 5 years for any wine I buy. What's happening?
I think that is also a problem in the communication. Why? Because I know that they are young wines and others for aging, like in the case of Argentina, Gran Reserva, with specific characteristics based on the local law. But Reserva is more or less 4 or 5 years. Gran Reserva could be 10, 15 or more. It depends on the wine. In some cases, that some classic wines are for aging, so you can have it 20, 25 years. We have that kind of wineries here as well, just aging wines. But we know when you go to the supermarket or the winery, in the winery, maybe somebody can assist you. Nowadays, the 75% of wine is buying on supermarket. So
wow.
that means that
That makes sense.
most of the people is buying wines in supermarkets.
Yes.
When you go to the supermarket, of course, in US is different than here. We have 98% is Argentinian wines. We don't have wines from other places. But I know US, I've been there many times and also live there, and you have wines from different countries. You have, of course, the North America wines, but you have from Italy, from Spain, from France, etc., etc. Here, you have only Argentinian wines. But in both cases, I think in your case and in the North American case is even worse. Because in the Argentinian case, all the labels are in Spanish. We are a new world, so we have the grape, the year, and some additional information like Reserva and Gran Reserva. And even when you have that information on the label, for consumers in general, it's very difficult to understand if this wine is ready to drink or if this wine I need to storage and age a little longer or not. In general, the wines that we sell here are all ready to drink, but in some cases you can have it on your fridge on your wine fridge for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years. But it's very difficult. If you're a consumer, you go to a supermarket and you find a huge wall full of wines, and maybe you know the Malbec is a grape, or you hear about Cabernet Sauvignon. This is the reason why most of the people believe this phrase that all the wines improve with time, because everybody hear that and believe that it's the same for all the wines. And I have some cases where people, for example, they bought a wine when one of their kids was born, and 15 or 18 years later, they want to open that wine like part of the 18 party. But the wine they bought, it was just a young wine at that moment, and they didn't know. It happened a lot. I have this wine when my kid was born 50 years ago. I don't know. What do you think? I open it or not? It's very difficult, but I have to see it. It's not drinkable. For sure, it's not drinkable at all.
No.
But what I want to say is, it's very complex for the consumers in general to do some kind of differentiation. So this is the reason why they believe all the wines are the same, and all the wines you can be aging or are wines for aging. In the case of US and other Latin American countries, I think it's worse because you have your local wines, but also you have wines, I don't know, for France with all the denominations, from Spain with all the denominations. And what means Gran Reserva in Spain is totally different than Gran Reserva here in Argentina or in Chile.
Okay.
The description and the requirements are totally different. So I imagine a consumer in front of all those bottles from different countries with labels on different languages and with words that they don't understand. So all our wines, I can buy it and drink it, or I can buy it and put it under the bed for a couple of years. They don't understand the difference.
Confusion.
Yeah, the confusion
for sure.
is big.
Now, when it comes to Argentina, it's the 7th largest wine producer globally, the 10th largest exporter in the world, selling to over 100 markets. You also advise caviar, the body that shapes the country's wine identity internationally. What's the single biggest misconception about Argentine wine that you like to correct when you're talking to people from other countries?
That we only produce Malbec.
Okay. Yes.
But no, it's a misconception, but at the same time, it's a reality because a huge part of our exportations are Malbec because it's a great variety that no one else have. Okay, Malbec is from Argentina. Argentina is Malbec. It's tricky because everyone's want to import something different because they already have Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc or Merlot or Chardonnay. So Argentina is Malbec. That is, for me, is a misconception because we have great wines in all the great varieties, and also we have amazing blends. But I think that is a mix between what the importers need and what we produce, which is the differentiator with other wine countries. It's a mix.
Sure. And what do you think Argentina needs to do better as a wine industry going forward in the future?
I usually do a comparison that my other Argentine people sometimes feels that it's interesting, but in the case of Chile, I don't know if you are familiar with Chile, all their exports are under the country brand, Marca
Okay.
País. So there is one group and organization doing all the negotiations and exportation, not only about wine, about many other products. But it's like this is the country presenting their products to the world. So if we talk specifically about wines, that is amazing because Chile is the same as Argentina. A lot of wineries, big, small, medium, different regions, blah, blah, blah. So in the case of Argentina, we have that variety of wineries, brands, regions, etc. But each of them need to do their own processes to export.
Okay.
So when you go around the world and go to the supermarket, you are going to find the same 5, 6 brands, nothing else. Why?
The big ones.
The big
yeah.
ones.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have amazing wines in Patagonia. We have amazing wines in the north of the country. We have many different kind of regions, weathers, etc. But for many of them, it's impossible to show their products to the world because maybe it's a family winery and a small one. So something that I think that I believe Chile is a great success case on that. I think that something that I believe that Argentina needs to do, and also I talked with the caviar, the Confederación Vitivinícola here in Argentina, and other organizations that are part of the industry here. I always talk with them about this because it's not only about produce and do great quality wines, produce great quality wines. It's also about to present the Argentina brand, the country brand, in a different way to the world. And I think that is something that is changing slowly, but it's changing. And it's something that can give Argentina more visibility, possibilities when we try to sell wines all over the world.
Sure. And you brought up Chile. So just so for people who may not be as familiar with the two countries geographically, you're separated by the Andes. Chile is on the Pacific Ocean, you're inland, but Argentina is much bigger geographically and production-wise in terms of like, how would you compare them roughly? I know it'll change
it's
each year.
totally different because even when the Andes is, because the Andes is in the middle, all the conditions are totally different. They have climate, we have continental climate in most of the regions. So, as I said, meanwhile Mendoza is a semi-desert, in the other side of the Andes, they have a lot of humidity and rains, etc.
Yes.
So the wines are totally different. I believe that in general, in Chile, they have a more classic style, and that is the kind of wine they export to the world. And they also have the Carmener, that is their flagship grape.
But in terms of production size,
no, we are much bigger than them.
Like 5 times, 10 times bigger than Chile? Or
I don't remember exactly the name, but I can say it's bigger.
Bigger, definitely, and geographically bigger. So
in terms of production,
beautiful countries.
As well. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Just a few other questions before we wrap up. Maybe tell us about your favorite childhood food and what you would pair with it as a wine today.
My favorite food in my childhood is something that here we call puchero.
Puchero
is basically where you have vegetables, meat, and you leave it there for many hours cooking. And you have corn, potatoes, many different kind of vegetables, also different kind of meat, and it's there for some hours. And it's a mix between a soup and some, I don't know. It's very simple. It's something very common here. And also is in Spain is called olla podrida because it's all the things that you have on the fridge, you put it on the pot and you cook it. So
okay.
it's like some cultural thing that it was very common and when I was a child. And nowadays also is something that you, especially some holidays, the Independence Day, that kind of holidays is something that is very connected with the culture and it's very nice. And the other question was about today.
What would you pair with it? What kind of wine would you pair with it?
Oh, white wine. When you have something
White
so
wine.
strong and hot and with a lot of fat on it, you need something more refreshing.
Something with acidity to cut through the richness.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic. This has been great, Saul. As we wrap up our conversation, is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to mention?
Maybe something that this week I had another conversation with people that is starting to study sommelier and they asked me my secret.
Yes.
And my answer was like, you need to study, you need to be very perseverant, and you need to keep learning all the time. We started our conversation with a description of my career life, and I have 3 degrees. And after that, I studied to be sommelier and to be bartender. And now I did a WSET 3, and now I am studying to do a test of the Court of Master Sommelier. So something that, because when people see the awards, they say, oh, she's very lucky. Well, the behind the scenes, always, at least that is my philosophy.
The effort. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Exactly. To study, to learn, to whatever you decide to do, but keep moving, keep learning all the time. And you see me talking so clear or relaxed, but behind all of that or behind any of my videos or my book or what I do in media is a lot of research. When I want to talk about a specific thing, whatever, wine or whiskey or gin or whatever it is, I do a research, refresh things, stories. I think interesting part. You keep learning, you keep your mind open. That is something I always want to share. It's not only about the words, it's also about the effort, as you said, and to keep learning and to study and to research and to be interested about how I can do this better. And I am doing that all the time.
You certainly are, Saul. Now, remind us again where we can get in touch with you and find your book online, all of the connections, which we'll also put in the show notes.
Yes. In social media, where you are going to find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. And my book is available so far in Spanish in the Penguin Random House page as ebook. So, well, you can find me there and send me a message. It could be in English because I can answer.
Yes, you can. You certainly can. You're very talented. So thank you so much, Saul. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope the next time we can raise a glass together in person.
I hope so. Very soon.
That would be fun. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. This was fabulous.
Thank you very much, because the interview and your time.
All right. Cheers. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Marisol. Here are my takeaways. Number 1, how do our personal memories shape the aromas we recognize in wine? Marisol recalls a student who said a wine smelled like sushi. She says it's amazing because it was a very old wine, 15 years old. And so we know there are aromas connected with age, including balsamic aromas. And she asked her student to use soy sauce on your sushi. Of course, the answer was yes. There's the balsamic part and the smell connected with sushi. It's fascinating how our minds work. Number 2, what incredible Argentine wines are we missing if we only focus on Malbec? As Marisol says, when it comes to Argentina, it's the 7th largest wine producer globally and the 10th largest exporter to over 100 markets. The single biggest misconception is that they only produce Malbec. But it's understandable because it's the grape variety that few other places grow, especially as a single varietal wine. The other challenge is that countries' importers want to import something different from what they already have. They already have Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Chardonnay, etc. So they want Malbec from Argentina. However, Marisol says you're really missing some of the greatest wines the country produces if you're only focused on Malbec. And number 3, why do wine and foods from the same region often pair beautifully together, even when they break the usual rules? As Marisol says, she paired Torrontés, the crisp aromatic white wine, with empanadas, like a pastry filled with beef. And Marisol explains the regional pairing can work. Elements from that place generally work together. And when it comes to Torrontés and empanadas, they're both very typical in the north of Argentina, where Torrontés is the main grape variety, so what grows together goes together. If you missed episode 265, go back and have a listen. I chat about Malbec Magic, Argentina's bold twist on a classic, with Amanda Barnes, author of the South American Wine Guide. I'll share a short clip with you now to whet your appetite.
Some of the best Malbecs today are more made in the style of a Pinot Noir than they are made in the style of Cabernet Sauvignon. And even though it has a lot more colour than most Pinots or lighter bodied varieties would, it can have that real freshness, brightness, that real approachability. I'm not talking about juicy, easy drinking Pinots. I'm talking about proper serious Burgundy. So it can have the elegance and balance. The top winemakers here are showing particularities of terroir in different regions because you're not covering it with oak or sugar.
That's true. I like the expression graphite tannins. What does that mean to you?
You know, when you like suck on pencil lead or that kind of experience of more those kind of like fine mineral tannins that aren't blocky and intense, but they're there, they're solid, but they're very fine grained.
You won't want to miss next week when we chat with Maryse Chevrier, whose witty, whimsical drunk doodles have been published in print and online in Bon Appetit, Food and Wine magazine, and Wine Enthusiast, and other publications. She'll join us from Boston to chat about her new book, How to Sound Wine Smart. Do you know someone who'd be interested in learning more about the wines of Argentina? Please let them know about this podcast. Email or text them now while you're thinking about it. It's really easy to find the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. Just tell them to search for that title or my name, Natalie McLean Wine, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, their favorite podcast app, or they can listen to the show on my website at nataliemclean.com/podcast. Email me if you have a sip, tip, question, or would like to win one of 6 drinks books I have to give away. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Email me at natalie@nataliemclean.com. In the show notes, you'll find a link to take a free online food and wine pairing class with me called The 5 Wine and Food Pairing Mistakes That Can Ruin Your Dinner and How to Fix Them Forever at nataliemclean.com/class. And that is all, everything in the show notes at nataliemclean.com/402. Thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope something great is in your glass, perhaps a spectacular high-altitude Argentine Cabernet Sauvignon that has that signature Andes altitude with attitude. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So subscribe for free now at nataliemclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.